Who would have thought that Lewis Hamilton, yes, that Lewis, would publicly throw his weight behind Max Verstappen jumping ship to Mercedes? Is this really happening? And are we about to see a shock move like we did when Hamilton first broke the news in early 2024 that he was moving to Ferrari? It began with a deceptively casual question. Would you recommend Mercedes to Max if he ever wanted out of Red Bull? Hamilton, freshly moved to Ferrari but forever branded a Silver Arrow legend, didn't hesitate. In a tone equal parts earnest and mischievous, he confessed regret over once calling Red Bull just a drinks company, then swung the spotlight back to Mercedes. If anyone was going to ask me about Mercedes, it's an amazing team. Great personnel, great factory, great environment to work in. So, of course I would say, be interested to see what happens. Boom. Now imagine the instant ripple through Brackley. Toto Wolff, who's admitted to more than one occasion of talking with Verstappen's camp, suddenly has Hamilton's seal of approval. Can you feel the tension building around Mercedes' paddock? And right beside him stands George Russell, who just months ago was being hailed as Hamilton's heir apparent. Now, Russell must brace for a teammate who tore through the field like a runaway train, and with Hamilton himself as the cheerleader. Or is it Russell himself that has to make way for Verstappen? After all, he hasn't officially signed a new contract yet. Zoom out for a moment, and let's bring in Eric Van Haren, the veteran voice on all things Red Bull and Verstappen. He's dropped a ticking clock on us. Within now, and about a month and a half, it will be clear whether the current number 3 in the standings will simply continue to drive for Red Bull next year, or will switch to Mercedes. The stakes? Unparalleled. Because if that month and a half goes by without a new contract for Russell, the paddock might just shatter. And what's Verstappen saying? At Silverstone, under the relentless glare of TV lights, he remains Houdini-level elusive. Don't talk about my contract, he snaps. A polished deflection worthy of a grandmaster. No decision has been made at this point. Nothing has changed on my side. However, is that true? The last months at Red Bull weren't exactly joyful, especially Austria. It wasn't just a bad weekend, he said. We also had some bad luck. The implication hangs in the air. If Red Bull can't deliver, why not answer Hamilton's call? Flip to another layer. The man himself hints at a broader vision. Amid sabbatical rumors, he flatly refused to take time off. F1 for sure. I'll combine it with any kind of other racing that is possible. That, in itself, is a message. Verstappen isn't just evaluating engines and aero. He's measuring his passion, his legacy, and, crucially, the team that can fuel his fire for seasons to come. Now, throw in the human drama. Imagine Russell pacing in the Mercedes motorhome, mind racing. Will Hamilton's endorsement be a blessing or a curse? How will Toto juggle 2 alpha drivers? Or will he have to send away Russell to keep Antonelli at Mercedes, who is deemed to be the next Verstappen, yes Hamilton? After all, Antonelli is the one that hasn't gotten away for Toto Wolff like Verstappen did all those years ago. And here's the pivot, our moment of reflection. What does it mean when Hamilton, the man who wore silver like a second skin, says, "Be interested to see what happens"? It's not just team loyalty unraveling, it's a seismic shift in the sport's power balance. Are we witnessing the dawn of a new Mercedes dynasty crowned by Verstappen's raw talent? Or the twilight of Red Bull's reign, cast aside by its fiercest competitor's endorsement? The questions lingers in every paddock and digital forum, fueling fan theories. The paddock hums like a live wire as whispers of Mercedes' next signing ricochet through every garage, every hospitality suite. Cameras flick to Toto Wolff, whose poker face has slipped only once when Hamilton's words went public. Now, the man at the helm of Silver Arrow stands at a crossroads. Pursue Verstappen's signature with relentless pursuit, or placate the grid's cries for balance. Because here's the kicker. If Mercedes swoops in with a mega contract, they risk eclipsing their own current stars. Remember George Russell's breakout performances in 2022 and 2023? Russell, brimming with youthful defiance, became the face of Mercedes' rebirth. Yet now, as the prospect of Verstappen looms, Russell must contend with the very driver he once vanquished by a fraction in Brazil, verge on vying for supremacy within the same walls he's called home since his debut. Meanwhile, across the pit lane, Red Bull scrambles to salvage its championship narrative. Christian Horner, under siege from media storms and fan theories, has double and triple checked every line in Verstappen's contract, hunting for an exit clause so slim it could be woven from spider silk. But as Verstappen himself warned, "I don't talk about my contract. No decision has been made at this point. Nothing has changed on my side." That line came not from a driver flirting with retirement, but from a champion staring down uncertainty. It begged the question, if not now, when? If Red Bull can't satisfy Verstappen's appetite for innovation, or if Mercedes can promise the technical reinvention he craves, then the hunger for change may simply devour the past. Picture the narrative threads weaving tighter. Mercedes, flush with wind tunnel data and new ERA 2026 car concepts, pitching to Verstappen a playground where he reigns supreme. Could Verstappen replicate Hamilton's 6 titles, and then some? But let's not overlook the human core of this drama. Hamilton's endorsement carries more weight than any brokered deal. When he apologized for labeling Red Bull just a drinks company, he wasn't merely apologizing. He was confessing to the shifting loyalties that define F1's modern era. His is the voice a young driver listens to, ever Verstappen. And Hamilton has already paved the path. 7 titles, 6 of them in silver, 1 left to chase at Ferrari. Now imagine that legacy handed to Verstappen, the most in-demand driver in F1, arguably ever. Yet there's a counterpoint lurking beneath the roar of engines. The soul of the sport. Fans breathe controversy like high-octane fuel. They crave balance, the old guard versus the new guard, titanic clashes of personality and pace. Should Verstappen join Mercedes, would we witness the most colossal intra-team war since Senna versus Prost if he were to race besides Russell? Or would they forge a gladiatorial alliance, united by silver livery and a singular hunger to dethrone McLaren next to Kimi Antonelli? In softer tones, consider Verstappen's whispered promise to explore other racing alongside F1. Endurance legend, Le Mans hero, rally sensation. This man, already 4-time champion, hunts new racing divisions to conquer. Could his yearning for diversity tip the scales toward Mercedes, or could we see an early retirement? And here's the philosophical spine. At what point does a driver cease to be an employee and become the sport itself? Hamilton sparked dialogues about team allegiance. Verstappen now embodies the spirit of competition. So where do we go from here? The final corner approaches. Will Mercedes ring the bell and announce Verstappen's arrival before the summer break, igniting a transfer season more explosive than anything ever seen in F1? Or will patience prevail, with Mercedes and Red Bull locked in a game of high-stakes chess, each waiting for the other to blink? One thing's certain, this storyline has more twists than a hairpin at Monte Carlo. Now, your turn. If Verstappen dons silver, will he elevate Mercedes back to dynasty status, or fracture the team's harmony beyond repair? And for Kimi Antonelli and Russell, what becomes of their alliance, solidarity, or sabotage? Share your theories and wildest scenarios, because the 2026 season is morphing into something we've never seen before.